Good morning all of you. My name is Ashutosh Rastogi and today we will going to discuss about evolution of mobile communication and spectrum allocation. So these are the outlines. We'll start up with the introduction. Then we will briefly describe about basic cellular systems. We will basically going to discuss about network architecture. Then we will going to discuss different cell types. Obviously depending upon its size, we will going to discuss what are different types of cells that are available. Then we will going to discuss about the evolution of mobile communication systems, in which we will going to start up with your first generation analog wireless cellular systems, which will be followed by your 2G systems. Then we will going to describe your 2.5G wireless mobile technology, which will be followed by evolution of mobile communication system from 2G to 3G. Then we will going to discuss CDMA 2000 evolution to 3G, how we basically reach third generation systems. Then we will briefly describe about IMT 2000 vision, what is that and what are basically our 3G systems. Then we will going to discuss about spectrum allocation in our 3G systems, or you could say that in our UMTS systems, which is nothing but your universal mobile telecommunication system. And finally we will going to conclude by discussing some of the specifications about your 4G wireless systems. So the mobile phone has proved to be one of the most outstanding technological and commercial successes of the last decade. So from the past 10 years, mobile has become the part of everyday life. So there are so many things which have been governed with the help of mobile communication, such as whatever we want to talk to someone, mobile is there. If you want to watch my stock quotes, want to connect with my social networking sites, there are so many applications where mobile system is present. So it would have been become the integral part of human life. So the evolution of mobile communication system can be categorized into generation of developments, such as we had already listened to that somewhere, that we are dealing with your 1G, 2G, 3G and 4G systems. These are various generations of your mobile communication systems. So presently we are on the verge of fourth generation of mobile systems. Obviously we are using 4G mobile systems nowadays, and 5G is about to come, although in some of the countries it has already been implemented, but in our country, in India, we are using 4G mobile communication systems. So let us take a quick look about the journey of how we have reached there and what are the specific features as well as the standards of various generations of users. I mean, different generations of users, what specific features they possess and what are different sort of standards that we are incorporating or following in our different generations mobile systems. So first we are going to start up with the basic cellular system. So this particular figure is showing the basic cellular network architecture. Here there is a base station and the coverage of base station would have been called as your cell. So these two particular sites are basically showing the cell in which this coverage area is belong to this particular base station, and this coverage area or this coverage area of cell would belong to this particular base station. So here we'll be having certain mobile terminal. These are your mobile devices, and there exists two types of links, that is your forward link as well as the reverse link. It means when mobile station will going to transmit certain amount of information to its base station, that is over on your reverse link, or we could say that uplink. Whereas when base station is transmitting certain amount of information to the mobile station, then it is on your forward link, or you could say that downlink. So these are your bidirectional links. There exists a mobile switching center which would have been called as the brain of your complete mobile communication system, whose main responsibility is to provide switching operations, that is how two different users will going to connect to itself. Apart from that, since we had already mentioned that it is the brain of your mobile communication system, so it will have to take certain logical decisions on the basis of different registers it have, that is it is having your HLR, VLR and authentication register. So these are different sort of registers which have certain amount of information stored on that, and depending upon that information your MSC will going to take several decisions so that it could facilitate the communication between any two users. So there is also existing the bidirectional connectivity with the mobile switching center to the core network, and that another core network would have been considered as your different infrastructure network. That is, it might be your IP network, it might be your PSTN network, or anything else. In general, this is the basic cellular system network architecture. So this particular figure is showing the brief history that how we have evolved from 1G mobile communication system to 4G mobile communication system. So depending upon different types of inventions as well as the development, we have divided our whole globe into three main parts, that is your Japan, US and Europe. So basically these three are the countries where most of the development and invention in mobile communication system would have been taken place. So we have broadly divided depending upon the type of mobility that our mobile communication system will going to provide. We have broadly classified them into wireless, and second one is your cordless. So cordless would have been considered as your less mobile system, or you could say that these are your portable systems, and these are your complete wireless, that is we have full mobility in these types of communication system. This particular oval shape is showing various 1G communication system standards, such as we will be having AMPS, we have NMT 450, that is your Nordic Mobile Telecommunication 450. This 450 would have actually been denoting that 450 megahertz frequency it has been exploiting or using. Then we will be having NMT 900, which is the another version of your NMT 450. Here your central carrier frequency is 900. Then we have TAX, that is your total access communication system, NETZC, Radiocom. And when we will looking forward your cordless telephony, we will be having different versions of cordless telephony, which has mainly been used in your European countries. So we have different versions, CT0, CT1, CT2, CT3. So these are different versions of your cordless telephony. Then in your 2G systems, this particular oval shape is showing in different geographical portion of the world what are different standards we have. So Japan is having your PDC, then AMPS would have been developed towards your IS54, which is nothing but your interim standard 54, which is your TDMA based system. Then we have PCS 1900, that is your personal communication system 1900, as well as IS95, which is nothing but your CDMA systems. Then in the European nations, what different types of standards we have? We have GSM 900, GSM 1800, as well as GSM 1900. As we have already mentioned that this 1800, 1900 and 900, these are basically signifying the different types of frequency that we are using. Then CT0 would have been emerged as your DECT, which is nothing but your digitally enhanced cordless telephony. Then we will be having your paging systems, PAC systems, personal access communication systems, and your PHS systems. As we move forward from your 1G to 2G systems, we have seen that there are so many standards which are existing worldwide. So the vision of 3G systems is just to avoid those heterogeneity and form a common unanimous systems by which we can facilitate communication between any two users, whatever specific standards they are following at that particular moment. So this was the actually vision, just to form a common system in which the users who are belonging to any of the system would be in a state to intercommunicate with any other user who's lying over different system. So we just trying to converge all those standards to a common unanimous system. That vision would have been called as your IMT 2000. Then this IMT 2000 vision, or you could say that the implemented version of this IMT 2000 vision was your UMTS and your 3G systems plus IP network. So this would have been called as your 4G system. So when we will have combined our IP network with this cellular network, so then this particular network would have been called as your IP network, that is your fourth generation of the system. So in 4G systems, all of the voice communication as well as data communication, that will be governed with your packet switch network. So this is the specification about your 4G system. So this is the overall insight, the historical insight, how we have moved from 1G communication system to our 4G systems and what are its specifications. So now we are going to start up with your first generation cellular radio network. So this particular slide is showing the network architecture of your 1G cellular network. So here also we will be having a base station, and its coverage region would have been called as your cell. So hexagonal cell structure would have been considered as the standard cell shape for frequency planning. So here this particular car is showing the mobile user, and all these base stations would have the connectivity with the mobile switching center, and mobile switching center is having several different registers which is it is having, that is your HLR, VLR and authentication registers. HLR is nothing but your home location register, which is having the database or which is having the information about all the users which has been connected to this particular MSC. Then VLR, which is basically taking the information about different visiting location users. Then authentication register would be taking the information about different mobile subscribers, and it has to provide certain authentication information that any individual user would be authenticate or not. So in conjunction with all these registers, your MSC will going to provide several sort of services to individual mobile users. Here another important point is your SS7, which is nothing but your signaling system number 7. So this is your control information protocol suite. So this is basically providing certain control information in order to fulfill the communication among different users. So here we could say that different MSCs would have been connected with your PSTN network, but this SS7, or you could say that the control information infrastructure would have been separated from its traffic channels. So this would have also been called as your out of band signaling schemes, where your control information and your traffic channels would be having different infrastructure. So similarly here also this MSC2, or you could say the visitor MSC, is again having these registers, and in conjunction with or in combination of both these MSCs and this complete infrastructure, any two users can communicate with any other users. So this is about your first generation cellular radio network. So in this particular slide we have described the basics of your signaling system number 7. So a high speed and high performance packet based communication protocol suite, that is your signaling system number 7. So this would have been considered as your major brain, or you could say that it is responsible for providing several control information so that the information exchange process would have been performed properly. SS7 implements out of band signaling protocols carried in separate signaling channels. This is what we have already described, that it is your out of band signaling protocols, that is your traffic channels and control channels are separated via different infrastructure. So the term signaling refers to the exchange of control information associated with the establishment of the telephone call on a telecommunication circuits. So obviously in order to provide your traffic from one point to another point, there has to be certain control information or control messages that has to be exchanged in proper sequence so that your complete communication can take place properly. So this SS7 deals with providing those control information in order to provide information exchange between any two users. So SS7 can communicate significant amount of information when setting up a call, during a call, and at the end of the call. So suppose you will be having your handset and you want to call to someone. Obviously you need to dial up a particular number. So as long as you have started dialing your number, so you are basically providing or imparting certain amount of information to the network. It is basically triggering a kind of control information which has to be get circulated in order to connect you with the number you are trying to call. So your call forwarding, that is busy or no answer, voicemail, call waiting, conference calling, these are certain points where control information exchange comes into picture. Another important part is your calling name as well as number display, call screening, etc. So all these features would also be governed by your SS7 control information exchange. So this is in brief about your signaling system number 7. So now first generation analog wireless cellular systems. So what is so peculiar about your first generation wireless cellular systems are, it transmits only analog voice information, that is it is complete analog, that is you could say that it is completely continuous in time in terms of signaling. Obviously I'm talking about. So it uses frequency division multiple access techniques as a multiple access scenario, which uses 30 kilohertz channel of spectrum, each carrying one telephone circuit. So for individual user, they are providing 30 kilohertz bandwidth in which individual user is supposed to transmit its information. And for multiple access techniques, they are using your FDMA. So types of analog cellular systems are, so what are different examples of your analog cellular systems are? So first one is your AMPS, which would have been also being called as your advanced mobile phone services. So it was first introduced in the US in 1983 and deployed with a total of 40 megahertz of spectrum in 800 megahertz band. So it would have been deployed at 800 megahertz band, where the complete bandwidth that is allocated to this complete mobile communication system is your 40 megahertz. In 1989, an additional 10 megahertz was added. So now the complete spectrum, or you could say that the complete bandwidth, would become 50 megahertz to your AMPS systems. So mobile to base station frequency band that it is using, that is your 824 megahertz to 849 megahertz. If you take the closer look, it is nothing but your signal transmission bandwidth allocated from mobile station to base station. So obviously we are talking about over the reverse link, or you could say that the for uplink frequency. So uplink frequency would have been in between your 824 megahertz to 849 megahertz, and the bandwidth for your uplinking that is available, that is your 25 megahertz for uplinking, and in the similar fashion 25 megahertz for the downlinking, and that downlinking frequency bands starts from 869 megahertz to 894 megahertz. So it again provides 832 channels, that is 832 number of subscribers can be connected simultaneously. It is using 7 cell reuse pattern, that is n is equal to 7. So in a particular cluster they will be grouping 7 number of cells. So channel bandwidth, that is your 30 kilohertz as we have mentioned. Then signal to interference ratio that has been standardized for your 1G communication system, or you could say that for your AMPS communication system was your 18 dB, and for voice sort of communication would have would only have been possible through your 1G communication systems. So for that purpose, the modulation schemes that we are using, that was your frequency modulation. Then second one is your TACS systems, that is your total access communication systems. It was first introduced in UK in 1985, which is using 25 kilohertz radio channel. In contrast with your AMPS, it is using lesser amount of bandwidth, or it is providing lesser amount of bandwidth to individual user. So here the uplink frequencies, again it is your 25 megahertz, and it is lying between 890 megahertz to 915 megahertz. And for downlinking, it is having your 869 to 894 megahertz as a downlink frequency. Again, if you subtract 894 to 869, you will get 25 megahertz. So just analogous to your AMPS, it is also providing 25 megahertz for uplink and 25 megahertz bandwidth for your downlinking. So it is virtually identical to AMPS, except it is scaled to fit 25 kilohertz channel bandwidth. So if we closely observe that your total access communication systems and your AMPS systems both are analogous to each other in terms of bandwidth requirement, that is uplinking as well as downlinking. Both of them will providing 25 megahertz bandwidth. But important point, or you could say that the important difference between your TACS and your AMPS systems is, in TACS we have provided 25 kilohertz bandwidth in contrast with your 30 kilohertz bandwidth that we have allocated in your AMPS systems. So obviously if we are talking about the capacity of total access communication system will become much larger in comparison to your AMPS systems. So next example is your NMT, or you could say that your Nordic mobile telephones. So Nordic word comes basically from your Nordic countries, that is Russia, Norway, Switzerland. This is the group of countries which have been called as your Nordic countries. So the 1G mobile standards that would have been used in these countries, that is your called as your NMT. So it was developed by the Telecommunication Administration of Nordic countries, as we have discussed. So NMT 450 and NMT 900, we had already described that this 450 and 900, this is nothing but it is describing the carrier frequency they are using for the signal transmission. So NMT 450 use lower frequency, that is your 450 megahertz, and high transmitting power, whereas Nordic mobile telecommunication 900 uses higher carrier frequency and low transmitting power. So NMT 900 basically exploiting low transmitting power, whereas your NMT 450 is using high transmitting power. So here also the radio channel is of 25 kilohertz, that is we are providing 25 kilohertz band to individual user. So NAMPS, or the specific version of your AMPS system, that is called as your narrowband advanced mobile phone systems. Motorola was developed an AMPS like systems, that is called as your AMPS systems. So if we talk about narrowband AMPS systems, the major difference between your normal AMPS systems and your AMPS systems is it is having it is providing lesser amount of bandwidth to individual users. So what is so peculiar about NAMPS systems and how it is different from your normal AMPS systems is it provides 3 users in 30 kilohertz AMPS channels using FDMA and 10 kilohertz channel. So in general, if we talk about in your AMPS systems, we are providing 30 kilohertz channel bandwidth to each and individual user, but whereas in your narrowband AMPS systems, we are providing 10 kilohertz bandwidth to individual user. So it provides 3 times the capacity of AMPS systems. So calculation is quite clear. If you are providing 10 kilohertz, obviously in 30 kilohertz you can assign 3 different number of users. So in general, we could say that it is having thrice the capacity in comparison to your general advanced mobile phone systems. So the capacity comes at the expense of reducing the signal to noise plus interference power. That is obviously the signal to interference noise power will get deteriorated, so which degrades the audio quality with respect to the AMPS. So quality wise AMPS was much superior, but capacity wise narrowband AMPS systems was much superior. So next example of your 1G systems is your JMCS, that is your Japanese mobile cellular systems. So it was first launched by Japan in 1979. So MCS L1 operate in 800 MHz band, channel bandwidth 25 kilohertz. So this is all about the specifications of all those standards which these countries were using at those times. So in most of the countries, all those standards would have been obsolete nowadays, but still we are just dealing or discussing the history or the evolution of mobile communication systems. So these are just certain facts, just go through it. So your MCS L2, that is operate in 800 MHz band and channel bandwidth is your 12.5 kilohertz. So for MCS L1 we will be having 25 kilohertz channel bandwidth, whereas for MCS L2 we will be having 12.5 kilohertz band. So obviously if you are talking about MCS L2, it is having much superior capacity, or you could say just double capacity than your MCS L1. Then next standard was USDC, that is United States Digital Cellular. So it was standardized as your interim standard 54, which in short form would have been called as your IS 54 by EIA and TIA. So these are your standardizing bodies. So developed in the late 1980s to support more users in a fixed spectrum allocations. So idea or insight was quite clear that it would have been developed in late 1980s, and the insight is to support more number of users, whereas the bandwidth or spectrum allocation is fixed. So it uses 45 MHz FDD schemes as AMPS. So it is again using 45 MHz spectrum bandwidth with frequency division duplexing schemes. So it is a duplexing schemes which would have been essential for creating full duplex mode of communication, that is simultaneously transmission as well as reception. So the bandwidth it is exploiting, that is your 45 MHz as we have in our AMPS systems. It employs TDMA for multiple access schemes, and it offers much as 6 times the capacity of AMPS. So in terms of capacity, it is providing 6 times of your normal AMPS system. So next is your cordless telephony. Obviously we are talking about cordless telephony, or we could say that we are talking less mobile, or you could say that your portable systems. So these are basically some different standards in comparison to your exact mobile communication systems. So cordless telephony technology was been around since mid 1980s. Even in European countries, these techniques now also have been exploited, but in terms of digital form, that is DECT, or you could say that your digitally enhanced cordless telephony. So although in our country cordless telephony are becoming obsolete day by day, and we are only using our mobile communication systems. So in terms of infrastructure wise, what it contains, it is having a cordless network which comprises of your base station as well as low power cordless terminal. So I hope all of you have seen the cordless telephone systems in your childhood. So base station provides the connection to the fixed local network and performs the required protocol conversion between the fixed network, that is your PSTN, and the cordless access network. So just frame a picture, we will be having a cordless telephone systems which is having a receiver, and we basically put the receiver on that particular base station. The base station provides the connection to the local fixed networks, and it is also performing the required protocol convergence, that how communication will going to take place, how it, what should be the data rate, and what are different multiple access techniques. So all would have been taken care by your base station. So the lower power terminal communicates with the base station over the radio link. So here the communication link between the low power terminal with the base station is only wireless. Apart from that, base station would have been connected with your PSTN network via some wired link. So that is why we are saying that it is your portable device, not your complete mobile device. So it is having the range of around 30 to 40 feet. So next version, that is your cordless telephony version 2, which would have also been called as your CT2. It was the first digital cordless telephone systems. So CT2 supports the common air interface, which was specified by your ETSI. It is again your standardizing body, that is your European Telecommunication Standard Institution. CT2 operates using your FDMA, that is your frequency division multiple access, or time division duplexing. So for duplexing it is exploiting TDD, and for multiple access environment it is using your FDMA. So frequency band used is 864.1 to 868.1 megahertz. So again, if we talk about the bandwidth, so it is your 4 megahertz. So it allows 40-100 kilohertz channel. So signals are modulated using frequency shift key with Gaussian filtering. So for modulation we are using FSK, with the filter, that is Gaussian, we are using. So now we are moving forward towards your 2G systems. So 2G digital wireless systems. So 1G systems was completely analog in nature, whereas 2G systems are digital systems. So the major insight to develop your 2G systems was for voice communication. So it uses digital modulation schemes in contrast with your analog modulation schemes as we use in our 1G systems. So 2G use digital signaling to connect radio tower to rest of the telephone systems. So main multiple access technologies are your TDMA, that is your multiple access technique, and for duplexers we will be using frequency division duplexing, as well as we could say that in conjunction with CDMA for multiple access technique, and FDD again for your duplexing. So it is basically having two variants in which we are using TDMA as well as CDMA as a multiple access techniques, and for both types of scenario we will be using FDD as your duplexing technique. So it provides the data rate of the order of 9.6 kilobits per second. So with the 2G systems, the maximum supportable data rate available to us is your 9.6 kilobits per second. So if you will going to compare with present state of art, you will find that it is nothing. So right now we are talking about multiple MB or megabits per second. So in comparison to your KB, it is nothing. It is your 1000 times lesser than that. So examples of 2G communication systems are your global systems for mobile communication, that is your GSM systems. So in which your multiple access techniques we are using your TDMA as well as frequency division multiple access. So the different frequency bands we are using for GSM 2G systems was 900 megahertz band and 1800 megahertz band. Although after some time we will be having some tri-band systems also as your 2G systems. So Airtel was the first operator who have provided tri-band systems. That is, it is providing the GSM services over 900 megahertz band, 1800 megahertz band as well as 1900 megahertz band. So another flavor or example of your 2G systems was your CDMA systems, that is your IS95, whose example is your CDMA, that is your code division multiple access. So this is again your cellular systems which would have been used by your US as well as South Korea for the communication purpose. So these are two examples that is available as your 2G communication systems. So this particular slide is showing the GSM as a simplified network architecture. So obviously this is basically showing the network architecture of your GSM systems. So again, we will be having a mobile station or mobile handsets which will be having your SIM card as well as the mobile equipment, or you could say that your handset. So the combination of SIM card as well as mobile equipment or handset, we are calling them in a combination as your mobile station. So mobile station is the combination of both these stuffs. Then mobile station is having the connectivity with your tower, or you could say your base stations, which has been denoted by your BTS, which is also being called as your base transceiver systems. So the connectivity or different interface by which our mobile station will get connection with your base station is your MUM interface. So this base station in the next hierarchy, it is connected with its BSC, which is nothing but your base station controller. So the interface we are using between BTS and BSC is your ABIS interface. So since we are talking about complete network architecture, so this network architecture will get replicated throughout the globe. So here important point is all these BSCs will have the direct connectivity with these MSCs, and MSC is having different sort of registers, such as we had already discussed that it is having your HLR, VLR, EIR, authentication register, equipment identity register, and your HLR is your home location register and VLR is your visitor location register. So basically VLR is having the copy of your HLR. Apart from that, it is also holding the information about those mobile stations which are visiting to this particular MSC. So on the basis of information stored on these different databases, MSC will going to take certain decisions. So here we had also shown this O&M. It is nothing but your operation and maintenance control, and this combination, that is your MSC along with this your HLR and VLR, we are calling them as your NSS, that is your network support subsystems, whereas the combination of operation and maintenance control as well as authentication register and EIR register, the combination of all those structures, we are calling them as your operation and maintenance subsystem. So obviously on the other hand, MSC is having the connectivity with the gateway MSC, and gateway MSC is having the interconnection with your different infrastructure network, which might be your PSTN network or ISDN network, that is your integrated service digital network. So this is the overall architecture, or you could say the network architecture of your GSM system. So GSM employs a number of logical control channels to manage its network. So obviously we had already discussed that there are two types of channels that is available. The one is your traffic channel, where we are actually transmitting our own information bits, and second one is your control channel. So control channels are responsible for providing control signals so that the traffic channel can take the information or users data from one point to another point. So if we talk about your logical control channels that manage the network operations, so there are basically three types of logical channels are there. So these are your broadcast control channel, which would have been designated as your BCCH, that is broadcast control channel. Common control channels, that is your CCCH. So this CH is representing basically channel, and this BC are representing the name of that particular channel, that is your broadcast channel, common control channel, and DCCH stands for dedicated control channel. So the GSM logical control channels are summarized in the table given on the next slide. So this particular slide is showing what are different types of channels that we have in our GSM. Obviously we are talking about control channels and what are their functions. So first one is your DCCH, which is your slow associated control channels, and about its functionality if we talk about, so it is providing control and supervisory signal associated with the traffic channel. So this is the functionality of your DCCH. So you can just go through it, the different types of channels and the functionalities would have been placed in this particular table. So now we are moving on towards your another 2G digital wireless system, that is your personal digital communication, which would have been abbreviated as your PDC. So it is mainly popular in Japan. So it is Japanese 2G standard. It operates in two frequency bands, that is your 800 MHz band with the 130 MHz duplex operation, and 1.5 gigahertz with 48 megahertz duplex operation. So the carrier frequencies it is using is your 800 megahertz band and 1.5 megahertz band. So for 800 megahertz band, we will be having the frequency band availability is your 130 megahertz, whereas at 1.5 gigahertz, we will be having 48 megahertz full duplex mode of operation. So bands are divided into 25 kilohertz channel, that is individual subscribers or individual user would have been provided 25 kilohertz channel. So for multiple access scheme employed is 3 or 6 channel, that is your TDMA, as well as frequency division duplex. So it is using time division multiple access for your multiple access environment, and for duplexing mode of operation or the technology by which they are implementing duplexing mode of communication, that is your frequency division duplex, or you could say your FDD. So in FDD we are providing different frequency bands, one for uplinking and one for downlinking, so that simultaneous signal transmission might get possible. So the advantages are, due to the digital error checking, sound quality is increased. So obviously the digital systems possess so many features, or you could say the advantages in comparison to your analog systems. So we can check out digital errors. So obviously the sound quality is much superior in comparison to your analog communication system. Digital systems emits less power, so more cells could be placed in the same amount of space. So obviously one point is we are exploiting time division multiple access environment, which is based on buffer and burst mode of communication. So we are not at all transmitting all the time, we are only transmitting at certain interval of time. So that is why we could say that we are in a state to conserve much more amount of power. So that is why we are saying that digital systems emits less power, so more number of cells could be placed in the same amount of space. So obviously if number of users will going to increase, then also since we are using TDMA systems, then also we are in a state to contain the co-channel as well as adjacent channel interference. So obviously in 2G systems the capacity would have also been improved, that is more and more number of users can get the services from 2G communication systems. So the limitations of 2G systems are, it was developed for voice communication and not suitable for data transmission. So obviously we are talking about initial 2G communication systems, since we have to study this complete extension path. So where we're going to get the idea that from where we have started and where we are right now. So in the present state of art, online movies, online gaming become a normal case. But if we are talking about 2G communication systems, those types of applications will never be possible with that much amount of data rates. So average rate of the order of tens of kilobits, that is 2G systems are providing 10 kilobits per second data rate. So it is not suitable for internet, or you could say your packet switch services. So but if you talk about your voice communication system, they are doing perfectly well. So weaker digital signal will not reach a cell tower. So obviously if signal power is less or signal strength is quite less, so that signal will not be in a state to reach to the cell tower, and if it is not reaching to the cell tower, obviously the connectivity will get lost. So next is your digitally enhanced cordless telephony, which would have been abbreviated as your DECT. So it was standardized by your ETSI in 1992. It operates in the range of 1880 to 1900 megahertz band, utilizing 10 carriers with carrier spacing of 1728 kilohertz. So this is the standards of your DECT. So DECT employs frequency division, TDMA, TDD in its transmission. So it is basically exploiting both these multiple access techniques, that is your frequency division multiple access as well as time division multiple access. But for duplexing, it is exploiting your TDD, that is your time division duplexing. So what we actually going to do in your time division duplexing is we are providing some contiguous slots, one for transmission as one for reception. So slot duration is very fast, so that we cannot be able to understand that our signal is not continuous, it is discrete. So it seems that simultaneously we are transmitting as well as receiving, but actually we are transmitting over contiguous slots. So speech is encoded using 32 kilobits ADPCM, that is your adaptive delta pulse code modulation systems, whose data rate is your 32 kilobits per second. So pi by 2 DPSK, pi by 4 DQPSK and pi by 8 D8 PSK modulation schemes would have been exploited for your speech coding techniques. Terminal operates with a peak power of 250 milliwatts and a mean RF power of 5 milliwatt at 8 kilobits per second. So if we are providing 8 kilobits of per second, so the peak power that terminals are operating is your 250 milliwatts and your mean RF power is your 5 milliwatts. So this particular figure is showing the DECT network architecture. So it is having two parts. Number one is your portable part and second one is your fixed part. So this particular type of infrastructure or network we are talking about while discussing are your cordless telephony. So it is having your portable part, which is having your end system as well as portable radio terminal. So this portable part and this fixed part, these two parts is only having the connectivity which is wireless and which would have been defined with your common interfaces. So whereas this fixed part, that is your fixed network terminal over which you are putting your portable radio terminal, it is having the connectivity with your fixed service provider, which is having the backward connectivity with your ISDN, X25 or GSM. So these are different infrastructure network which would have get connection with this IWU. So now we're going to discuss about your 2.5G wireless mobile telephony. So the effort to remove the impediments of 2G systems results in 2.5G. So obviously we wanted certain amount of development, or we wanted to remove some of the problems associated with our 2G systems. So we have provided those developments and we have reached your 2.5G systems, which is much superior in terms of performance in comparison to your 2G systems. So 2.5G systems are also your digital systems. So they are also providing voice communication as well as low data rate applications are also being possible with the help of 2.5G systems. So we had already seen that in our 2G systems, the maximum supportable data rate was available to us was 9.6 kilobits per second. So here we have increased the data rate as we have introduced your GPRS, that is your general packet radio services. So internet access through GPRS, so this is what I'm talking about. So enhanced data rate for global evolution, that is your edge, which uses better modulation techniques. So basically edge, with the enhancement or incorporation of this particular hardware module edge, we are in a state to further increase the data rate for individual users. So edge basically would have been called as your enhanced data rate for GPRS enabled nodes. So in 2.5G we are using two technologies. Number one is your GPRS, so which is nothing but your general packet radio service. So it is a packet link technology that enables high speed wireless internet. So it implements by adding new packet nodes and upgrading existing nodes to provide routing path for packet data network between mobile and the gateway nodes. So in order to provide certain data call features also, we have provided or added certain additional hardware to our existing sites so that we should provide much higher amount of data rate to the individual users. So basically we could say that we have provided additional infrastructure to get this high data rate services. So second one is your edge. So enhanced data rates for GSM evolution, this is what we had already mentioned. So it uses the same TDMA frame structures and 200 kHz carrier bandwidth as today's GSM network using high level of modulation. Why we are calling them as a today's GSM network? Although most of the users in your urban cities, they are using your 4G systems and some of them are also using 3G systems, but many of people in the rural areas, they nowadays also they are using certain 2G networks. So our service providers have to provide the services to all types of users, that is your 2G, 3G and 4G. So although some of the service providers will going to restrict the services to 2G service providers, I think Airtel has stopped these services. So edge is add-on to GPRS. So it is again the addition to your general packet radio systems. So with the help of edge, we are in a state to provide much larger amount of data rate services to the individual user in comparison to your GPRS. So it uses 8 PSK modulation in good conditions. So if we are using M-ARRI signaling schemes, so obviously utilizing or exploiting same signaling schemes, we are in a state to generate much larger amount of data rate. or number of bits per second will get increased. So increase throughput by 3 times, that is 8 PSK means 3 bits per symbol versus GMSK 1 bit per symbol. So this is what I'm talking about. So it offers the rate of 384 kilobits per second and theoretical up to 473.6 kilobits per second. So it is generally providing 384 kilobits per second data rate, but theoretically we could say that it is providing 473.6 kilobits per second. So it uses 9 modulation coding schemes, that is your MCS 1 to 9. So these are different variants of your modulation coding schemes 1 to 9. So in MCS 1 to 9, or you could say your mobile coding scheme 1 to 4, it uses GMSK, while MCS or mobile coding schemes 5 to 9, it is using your MRE or MPSK schemes, that is your 8 PSK modulation schemes. So it uses link adaptation algorithms. So depending upon if link condition is good or bad, they are switching over whether they are using MCS 5 to 9 or whether they are using GMSK, or you could say MCS 1 to 4. So modulation bit rate is about 810 kilobits per second. Radio data rate per time slot will be your 69.2 kilobits per second. So these are again certain facts, you need to just listen to that. So user data rate would have been 8 time slots, that is equal to 473.6 kilobits per second. So this calculation would have been come from this particular scenario. So when you will get multiply with this particular 59.2 to this 8 time slots, you will get this 473.6 kilobits per second. So this is the theoretical result that we are talking about. So new handsets or terminals equipments, additional hardware in the BTS core network, and the rest remains the same. So these are certain specifications what we have actually exploited or what we have actually incorporated in order to get these much amount of data rate. So edge access develops to connect to the 3G core network. So additionally, when we have developed further in order to increase the data rate, so via expanding edge or via further enhancement the capacity to your edge, we have moved towards your 3G core systems. So obviously I'm talking about data rate. So data rate would get much increased and we have reached towards your 3G systems. So now we will going to stop here. In the next class we will start by discussing evolution to 3G system. So these are the references. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.